Hey everyone, this is Andrew, and in this video I'm going to show you the Darkglass Ultra bass plugin by Neural DSP. It's based off of a hardware piece of gear by Darkglass, and they just turned it into this awesome software plugin. So before I dive into it, I'm just going to show you this bass clip with the audio of the track we're going to be working on, and then we'll dive into it. So here we go. Alright, so the clip you just heard is with the Darkglass plugins in effect. There's not much on them elsewhere or otherwise. What I did is I split the bass into a sub, a kind of typical bass, and then I added some kind of higher fuzz elements. So I'll play this here just with the bass by itself. Actually, I'll do it with the bass and the drums here. And I'll do a comparison. If I solo the bass, it's pretty fat. And now if I show you the dry bass, just for a reference, it's a huge difference. And a lot of it comes down to in the actual mix. So if I just play these two parts side by side, I think you'll really hear the difference. And the difference isn't necessarily that you can necessarily hear the bass. It's that it meshes with the guitar and the drums much better. When it's soloed, you might be like, oh cool, that's a really nice bass sound, or you might even think the distorted one is too aggressive. But when you put it in the context of guitars and drums, it fits a lot nicer. So this is the comparison. So if you notice, once the Darkglass bass tracks kicked in, the guitars just got way more fat. And you know, part of that is because the guitars are sound designed to mesh with the bass, but you know, it's no matter what you do, this is going to sound better than definitely a dry track. Now if you're comparing this between Guitar Rig, which is what I first threw Guitar Rig on and then kind of tailored the sound, and actually thought that it sounded better just with Darkglass. So I'll open up Darkglass and take you through each of these three elements to show you what's going on. But there's two screens inside of this. So there's the actual like plugin part, which is kind of like a distortion kind of thing, and you know, EQ, and it's got like other elements. But in the back end, there's actually an amp simulator. So this is very detailed. You can choose microphones. You can move them around just by clicking and dragging them. There's also, you know, levels and stuff like that, distance. So if I go back to this window, this is the sub track. So I'll solo this so you can hear it. Let me just do that. And if you're wondering why it sounds so weird, is because I actually sidechained the sub to the drums. Now, this is usually something you do in like electronic music, but it helps the kick pop through a little better. But in between kick hits, it keeps a nice sub range, because if you just had no sub at all, then it kind of sounds a little emptier, at least I found in the context of this part. So that's why you hear some kind of like note flubbing. But, you know, sub bass track, you could just use the DI. I put this on just because I wanted to see how it would sound, and it worked good. So next I'll go to the bass by itself. And this has some EQ. I have an EQ before it just to scoop out all the sub frequencies. And then in here, I'm just basically, I didn't touch these much, just pushing them a little bit back and forth. I'm just driving it. So that's how that is made. And then the last element, I'm also using an EQ to sculpt the sound. And then I'm using Darkglass and then a noise gate, because since this one's the fuzz layer, I guess, I boosted the trebles and I have the drive pretty high, and I wanted to noise gate it so that it wasn't just kind of buzzing in the background. So I'll go to the main bass sound, because I think that's where most of the sound comes in. So first, let me just stack these and play them a little bit. All right, so if I open up the main Darkglass. Now, the way this plugin works is you have a master control, you have a blend, which if I turn this on and off, it's just going to kind of turn off the plugin. And now we're back to our dry sound. And the level is kind of you know, it's a kind of like the drive, but not the drive. It's pushing the plugin. So. And then the drive, of course, is the actual drive. If I start playing with some of these EQ settings here, you'll see how it changes the sound. You can turn off the distortion. You can also bypass the plugin. The rest of these knobs here, this is kind of the external part of the plugin. This is the actual model, I guess. This just controls, you know, if you want the plugin mono stereo, what the input and output levels are, and then how much oversampling there is. In the world of audio DSP, and especially in the case of drive, when you're driving a digital audio signal, if your sample rate is 44K, then the Nyquist frequency says the highest frequency you can hear is 22.05K. And so oversampling, basically, I'm not going to go into the theory, but there's this effect called, I'm blanking out on the word, but what happens is anything higher than your Nyquist limit will reflect back onto your EQ, and it'll come up as a frequency you can hear. So oversampling is just a way of increasing the processing power and sampling faster than the actual frequency of your DAW to eliminate those artifacts. I'll write the word I'm looking for on the screen. I'm just blanking out at the moment. So that's what that is. If you notice any latency issues, I guess you could turn it down or something. But I just keep it on high, and it seems to be no problem. There's two different plugin modes to this. There's the vintage mode, and then I guess this would be the modern mode, or the Microtubes B7K mode. There's an EQ link. This I haven't actually played around with, so I don't, you know, it doesn't seem to be incredibly important, but I'm sure it does something useful. And then again, we have this other window here, and this works the same. Everything at the top's the same. You can move things around. You can also just click and drag things around. There's the tweeter level, and there's the microphone level, and then I believe this is a phase flip, and then you can also just straight up turn the microphone on or off. And then you have everything mirrored on the other side. Just, you know, you can choose a second microphone. You can also load IR files, which is very nice. So that's that. Now, I'm not going to dive into Darkglass for each one of these layers because the process is pretty much the same. You know, the sub, I filtered everything before, and I have the gain down. And the fuzz one, I have the gain up higher and the treble up higher. But what I want to dive into, just to show you what I'm doing to the sound, so you don't think there's any mystical stuff going on. The sub, I have neutron on just so that I can sidechain it to the kick drum. This, I only have the EQ to sculpt, and this I have the EQ and the noise gate. But on the bass bus, I have some more processing, and the reason for that is I wanted to have the bass kind of gel together. So if you have all these separate tracks, sometimes what will happen is they won't sound like they're one thing. They'll sound like they're three things on top. And so some ways you can fix that is process them as a bus. And so all three of these things get summed into a bus, and then I'm noise gating the whole thing just because there was an additional fuzz in the rest of the stuff. So I wanted to kind of tame that. Now in Neutron, what I'm doing is I'm actually compressing the whole signal. So if I play this, we'll watch the meters bounce around. And I'm not doing anything crazy here. This is just, you know, I put it into multiband mode, and around here I just kind of move this around until I get a sound I liked. I'm compressing the, I guess, more upper frequency part of the bass sound more aggressively, and then everything below I'm kind of compressing kind of like a normal bass with a lower ratio, so I have a slow attack, a kind of, I guess, middle release, or pretty slow release. And then, yeah, so, you know, on the sub I already had compression. On the main bass, I did not have compression, but so the sub was getting compressed to the kick drum. In this one, the sub and also a little bit of the regular bass is getting compressed just on itself. So that just kind of tames the signal down. I am doing some EQ here. This looks, I'll turn off the masking. I am doing some EQ here, and this probably looks a little ridiculous, but it's really not. In a lot of sounds, if you play them, you'll notice that there's certain frequencies that resonate. and they can create kind of an annoying sound, especially when stacked up. You know, if you have like 30 tracks of something with a resonant frequency of like 1.5K, it's going to stack up and sound annoying or painful. So you can go through and find them. I'll show you how I find them. Here or that, there's like a ringing, and if I move this around, you'll see it kind of disappears around the area. So right there, around 1.5K, that's the most annoying frequency in this this sound. So what I do is I just make the gain negative and scoop it out. And so some of them are more obvious. That one, this kind of whole area is a little ringy, but you don't want to scoop the whole area. Around like 4K and 2K, there's usually the more annoying frequencies. And then I could have put a second EQ on the sound, but instead I just boosted this overall area. So this is still getting scooped, but I'm boosting the highs and the not annoying frequencies so that the bass kind of cuts through and then meshes with the guitar a little better. Because my guitar track, I'm actually cutting some of the highs to make room for like the cymbals, and then I guess also technically some of the upper bass frequencies. And as you can see here, I do the same thing with the guitars. I just cut out all the frequencies I find annoying. There were some ringing frequencies here. And then there was like a click from my guitar pick, and I just kind of went around and found where that was and cut it out. The guitar's been doing other processing other than this EQ. I think I actually boost some frequencies in a second equalizer. So that's all the processing happening inside of Neutron. So I'll solo that. And if I open this up, this is just Waves L1 limiter, and this is just to squash the heck out of the bass sound. So what happens in limiter is any sound level that goes above this range is just going to get hard limited to this output ceiling. So anything in this waveform that comes above is with an infinite ratio compression, it's going to get ducked down to this point. And so you can use this kind of like to scale your audio sound up or down. And you can also use it to just squash the sound and make, even if you're not making it louder, you're making the apparent loudness louder, because the signal is kind of over the average lifespan of, let's say, a bass pick, which the attack can be pretty short, and you might have short notes. If you don't compress it and limit it, it might sound very quiet, even if the peaks are very high. So limiting compression just allows you to tame those peaks and bring up the overall average of the signal up. And so it makes it, even if it's not necessarily louder on a peak scale like what you'll see on here, the sound will be much louder. So I'll show you the effect of that. So there's a couple different things going on when I move that around. Obviously, some of this is turning up and down, and some of this is not. But you can see there's a lot of possibilities when you play with a limiter on pretty much anything in terms of how you can affect the perceived loudness or the actual loudness of something that's happening. So that's really it. This plugin's super good. It's kind of like an instant tool for getting nice bass sounds. If you have something like Guitar Rig, that's also an excellent tool for bass and guitar, but I personally think that it's easier to use something like Darkglass. In terms of a side-by-side comparison, I'd have to look at that more in depth to actually compare it. So even just ignoring, the actual features of the Darkglass and the sound quality comparison, Guitar Rig is a lot more to work with. So there's all these different modules and there's all these different presets. And it's just it's a lot more complicated. It's a lot easier just to throw on Darkglass and know that it's going to work. So obviously inside of something like Guitar Rig, you can get a great result. So if I was to do a true comparison, I'd have to try to match the sounds and then compare them, do my best to actually create the best sound I can in each. And that's not what this video is about. Maybe I'll do that in another video. But yeah, so overall, let me know what you think about this plugin. I know that a lot of metal artists are using it on their bass tracks in their mixes, and to me, I can see why. It's very easy to use. It sounds great. It lends itself well to this kind of stacking thing, because it seems like it's not too heavy in the CPU load, but I guess none of these plugins really are. So yeah, I mean, I recommend you check it out. I'll put the price on the screen, and in the description below there'll be a link to the Neural DSP website where you can check out this plugin. Right now, I'll actually just head to their website so I can just show you what it is. There is a trial, so you can check it out. You know, no commitments. It's just like a free download, and it gives you a time limit. And yeah, it explains it much more in detail here, what the differences between the vintage and B7K mode is. And, you know, they have a lot more specifications than I really care to know about. Not care to know about, but care to demonstrate in a video. You can just go to their website and check it out. Yeah, so let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe. I upload videos every single Tuesday and Friday. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.